Okay, so the season has just ended. The ATV season's over in Maine. Uh, yeah, this thing got limped across the finish line. We had a few minor breakdowns over the season, so let me just get into it. So first of all, clutch arm needs to get rebuilt. Needs new bearing, new seal, new washer. I'm gonna do new gasket, new rings in there because we put 20 hours on this top end. Let me see if I can't. Yeah, so 20 hours, 30 minutes with 462 miles. Um, this season, that's pretty good. That's enough to where I don't feel like losing my motor because of bad rings or head gasket or something. So I'm just going to do that for security. Most recent fail was on my last ride. Uh, Ripped a CV boot, an inboard CV boot in half on a rock. A rock got lodged in there. Had to limp it home. Actually, I hauled ass home because I really needed to go to the bathroom. So I'm gonna basically right here just find like a piece of aluminum or maybe a piece of rubber or something to just stop debris from getting up in here because it was like a rock the size of my fist got up in here and just ripped the boot in half. So I'm kind of right in the middle of reinstalling the drive shaft, and I was able to save the bearing. It's still just fine in there. I also lost a chain. I was about 15 miles out in the woods, had to get towed home. That was on a conventional chain, so I went to a Tusk X-ring chain that hasn't given me any issues so far. I also had a bad wheel bearing in the back, and then both of these bearings are bad. I'm gonna check the bearings on the other side. And then moving forward, I did about, I think, 4 oil changes on this thing this year. So a decent amount. I've been really keeping up with it. In here, we've got some wear and tear damage on the A-arms and whatnot. Okay, sorry for the cut there. Got a phone call. Moving on, so we had damage to A-arms. Also bent this tie rod. I was able to straighten it out, but that's getting replaced. So are the A-arms. So are the front shocks. So are the brake lines, for that matter. Front wheels and tires. Already sold them to a buddy of mine. They had 2 seasons on them. He's just on a little 250X, so they're fine for that. Going to 23-inch hole shots on Douglas 190s. So very similar setup to what's here, tire-wise. Well, this is obviously the best part of the 700. I omitted this. Is that whole pattern's the same on the front and the rear, so we can rock our rears on our fronts, and we will be doing that because why the fuck not? Additionally, our rear brakes are kind of acting up a bit, like a lot of bit actually in here. I don't really know what's going on. They're still working. They're just making a lot of really weird noises, really concerning noises. I also think we might be drinking coolant, which is another reason I want to do my head gasket, because I'm low on coolant. Overflow is empty, and I'm to like here, maybe like 3/4 of the way up. So that's annoying. Also, I'm going to polish these plastics. I need an auto tune. You can't do it without auto tune. You can't do a power commander without auto tune or a dyno tune. It just you can't make it work. I've been trying all summer, and I get really close, and I'll think I'm really good and dialed in, and then I'll hit some new terrain, a new hill or something, or hit something at a different speed than normal, and it'll just feel like shit. So the other side of this is going to be getting an O2 sensor. Probably back here where it's out of the way. Gonna check wheel bearing on this side. I think we'll be good. It feels better than the other one did, but I'm not sure. Polishing the plastics. This is gonna get repainted. There's some damage here. I didn't really do a good job. There's some scuff marks. This is a disaster up here. This needs some serious work. Oh, Jesus, what the fuck is going on with that? I have no idea. That was a really quick fix I did on that. This clutch is just also a disaster. So this is going to get replaced probably with a Magura hydraulic clutch. And I think between that and then the bearings, we're going to be good. And you can see we're also leaking some oil out of there. So going to be chopping the excess threads off here just for weight, clean look, simplicity. Yeah, and that's about it. We might be going... I have an oversized radiator up there that I might be putting in. I really don't have any overheating issues, so I'm not super worried about it. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. The wheels, I think this is my first full season on the 190s, and this one's got a couple little love marks in it. Nothing serious, but they held up way better than the A5s, and they're really not much heavier than the A5s. Got another one there and there. The beads are just so much stronger. Like, this would have deformed the whole bead on an A5. So I think at least for a 700, you really need to go with 190s all the way around. Over here, didn't have any issues. Probably going to take this out and paint it because I'm getting really sick of looking at this big scratch in the paint. Might paint the tank. I don't know. I like being able to see in there and whatnot. These lights, I think, are still working. Yeah, the handguard lights are still working. Still starts good. I'll start it up real quick. Am I being an idiot? Am I doing anything wrong? No, I think we're good. Starts good. And you know my tune's pretty decent because it actually starts and idles on the first time. A stock 700 will not idle first time. It will start and then it'll die after a second. And then you'll have to start it again and then it'll idle. So I know I've at least got my fueling on my idle and my startup good. And I did that myself. There was no maps out there that had a good idle tune. So I did that myself, and that works really well. Other than that, I'm going to be waiting on the rear shocks just because I'm going to be putting over $3,000 into the front end. Actually, I think close to $4,000. So these are going to wait for a little while. I also just found out, a little known fact, there used to be a long travel rear end for this. That would come back an inch and out 2 inches on each side. They don't make those anymore. I think they were made by Sonic Racing, and obviously if you look up Sonic Racing, it's going to come up with Sonic the Hedgehog, so very, very hard to find. Keeping an eye out, if I ever find a set come up for sale, it even had longer drive shafts and stuff, I'm totally going to be buying that if I ever find one. But yeah, other than that, this thing's been an animal. It will pretty much... It's a tiny bit slower right now. It looks so ridiculous. It's a tiny bit slower right now than a KTM 250SX. And I think that's pretty good for something that's over twice as heavy as that machine. And I think once this thing gets the auto tune on it over the winter, I've got 6 months before I'm riding a lot again. So I think once it gets auto tune, we're going to be in good shape. And I think we'll be at least keeping up with the dirt bikes in a straight line. But once you're on the trails, nothing can keep up with this. If you're thinking about getting a 700XX, go for it. They do not have the body roll people claim they do. It's not a solid axle, and that's honestly a good thing for anybody who's not doing motocross racing. The ride is so good, even with the mass stock shocks. It's just such a fantastic machine. They make really good power. I'd say this, at the wheel, it's probably sitting around 50 to 55 horsepower at the wheel right now. At the crank, probably closer to 60 to 65. I'd like to think it's going to be up near 55 to 60 once I get that auto tune. So yeah, there's going to be a shitload of money getting wasted on this machine this winter, and also a shitload of time. So it'll be good to go June 1st. And yeah, so this is where we're at, guys. Let me know if anybody has any questions about this machine, or any parts that are already on here, as well as any parts that aren't on here that I've opted to not put on that other people like. So, yeah, there it is.